This week, President Trump surprised the business community. The White House has announced the implementation of new tariffs targeting China. The United States imposed tariffs on China. I possess unparalleled knowledge about trade. In 2018, Donald Trump has initiated one of the most significant trade wars in history. The interactions between China and the United States resulted in significant turmoil. While the focus was on the US, an unexpected nation was quietly capitalizing on the turmoil, amassing considerable wealth in the process. Vietnam. By 2024, Vietnam emerged as the third fastest growing economy globally, surpassing countries such as China, the US, and Singapore. In just 10 years, its income per capita has almost doubled. This may appear unusual for a nation often linked to communism, yet it is, in fact, the result of an intriguing phenomenon. As Donald Trump worked tirelessly to revive manufacturing in America, a chance presented itself. Since the onset of the trade war, Vietnam's exports to the US surged, rising by almost 500% over a span of just 10 years. This positions it as one of the fastest growing manufacturing hubs in the world. Exports to America now constitute a quarter of the Vietnamese economy. It has enriched individuals, enhanced education, and improved the quality of life for the average Vietnamese. However, there is another perspective. Vietnam's economy is currently under the influence of America, and the outcomes of such a situation are already evident. A decade of advancement could be undone with a single tweet. How did this country arrive at such a critical juncture, and will it sustain its remarkable ascent or confront an economic decline? Strolling through the streets of a Vietnamese city today would appear quite comparable to those in China. It is fresh, contemporary, and full of energy. Although Vietnam's rapid growth is a recent development, the truth is that for many years the country has been strategically preparing to become the next major manufacturing center. Throughout a significant portion of the 20th century, the country was characterized by strife. With the conclusion of the Vietnam War in 1975, the nation lay in devastation. The economy is in ruins and the infrastructure lies in tatters. Following the war, the Communist Party of Vietnam assumed complete control over the nation, uniting North and South Vietnam and implementing a Soviet-style planned economy. The government would oversee nearly every facet of economic existence, from the home you resided in to the employment you engaged in. However, it is not surprising that this established system did not produce the post-war boom that the nation urgently required. By 1985, the majority of individuals remained in a state of deep poverty. The average income amounted to merely $238 annually. 10 years after the war concluded, as the nation teetered on the edge of disintegration, a transformation was imperative. In 1986, the country embarked on bold measures that would irrevocably reshape its historical trajectory. China, their northern neighbor, was undergoing one of the most extraordinary transformations in history, and Vietnam was eager to be part of it. The Doi Moi reforms led to the transformation of the country into a market economy. In alignment with the blueprints established by China, the country will now permit and actively encourage private enterprise, foreign investment, and international trade. The effect was instantaneous. In the early 1990s, more than 60% of the nation's population was living in extreme poverty. However, by 2010, this figure had decreased to below 10%. However, in spite of this achievement, the nation continued to exist in China's shadow. It established trade agreements, developed its workforce, and invested in infrastructure. However, it was unable to match the vast scale of China, resulting in limited opportunities for Vietnam to enter global markets. For many years, the nation struggled to truly realize its economic potential. However, everything shifted in a single day in 2018 when Trump initiated his trade war against China. It seems we can officially refer to it as a trade war now. President Trump has been involved in a trade conflict with China. The trade war between the United States and China is a reality that we are facing. Headlines shattered. A 25% tax on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods, encompassing everything from semiconductors to clothing, would be required before these products could enter the US market. Trump's concept was straightforward. Imposing tariffs on Chinese imports would increase the cost of production overseas, motivating US companies to relocate manufacturing back to the United States. China swiftly responded by imposing 10% tariffs on $60 billion worth of U.S. goods. As the conflict intensified, each round of tariffs became increasingly severe, ultimately leading both countries to impose an average charge exceeding 20% on all exports. Some U.S. manufacturers experienced a temporary increase, yet the majority, which depend significantly on Chinese imports, faced rising costs and declining demands. To exacerbate the situation, the commitment to restore manufacturing jobs in America, the very essence of the trade war, has ultimately failed to materialize. The Federal Reserve Board discovered that the tariffs led to a 1.4% decrease in manufacturing employment. What were the reasons behind the failure of Trump's tariffs to restore jobs in America? It could be attributed to a single nation, Vietnam. Currently, Vietnam exports over $120 billion worth of goods to the United States annually, which constitutes more than a quarter of its economy. What's even more surprising is that following the tariffs, Vietnamese exports to the U.S. have surged nearly fivefold. In this time frame, the nation's median income has effectively doubled, with certain estimates indicating that tariffs alone have generated over 2.5 million new jobs, fundamentally changing the country in just a few years. What are the specific ways in which Vietnam has been benefiting from this? Following the imposition of tariffs on Chinese goods by the U.S., companies found themselves compelled to reevaluate their supply chains, with many contemplating the relocation of operations to sidestep the increased expenses. Instead of returning to the U.S., as Trump had anticipated, businesses discovered a compelling option in Vietnam. Companies such as Apple, Intel, and Foxconn have started to shift their focus to the nation, moving significant factories and bringing substantial investments along with them. Only 4 months prior, SpaceX revealed a $1.5 billion investment initiative in the nation. This may appear unusual. Although Vietnam has experienced significant growth, the GDP per capita in America is nearly 22 times greater than that of Vietnam. One might assume that companies would be eager to establish themselves in the U.S. They possess exceptional infrastructure, a highly skilled workforce, and robust legal protections, making them an attractive destination for high-skill industries such as tech and finance. However, Trump's tariffs were not intended to restore jobs that require a high school education. He aimed to restore blue-collar manufacturing jobs, fulfilling the mandate for which he was elected. The tariffs were completely ineffective in that respect. The explanation is straightforward. It is simply too costly. The federal minimum wage in the United States stands at $7.25 per hour, while certain states, such as California and New York, have set their rates as high as $16.50. The minimum wage in Vietnam stands at 94 cents per hour, totaling less than $200 monthly. In the realm of manufacturing jobs, where employee wages constitute a considerable share of overall expenses, operating in Vietnam is undeniably more cost-effective than in the U.S. Since the onset of the trade war, American companies have been pouring into Vietnam, significantly boosting the country's wealth. It is rapidly emerging as one of the largest manufacturing centers globally, with its manufacturing output increasing from $50 billion to more than $100 billion in the past 10 years. Entire regions have been transformed by the arrival of foreign factories, with industrial parks emerging almost instantaneously. This achievement is not solely attributed to inexpensive labor. For many years, successive governments have actively engaged in efforts to position the country as a replacement for China on the global stage. It is positioned in the upper echelon of Asia regarding English proficiency, and each year, an increasing number of individuals are enrolling in college. One of their key strategies for success has been the establishment of industrial zones. These regions, spread throughout the nation, serve as manufacturing centers, drawing in major corporations from across the globe. Consider Yanfeng, a prominent industrial zone in the nation. Spanning 80 square kilometers, it hosts some of the largest companies in the world, including Apple and Canon. Indeed, this area is home to Samsung's largest phone factory, which is responsible for more than 50% of the company's global supply. Today, Trump has returned to office, and he aims to take unprecedented steps to combat transshipping. Instead of solely imposing taxes on Chinese products, he aims to apply tariffs on all foreign manufacturers, including those from Vietnam. and if carried out, it could have devastating effects on their economy. Nearly 25% of the nation's economic output is derived from exports to the US, with the largest and most rapidly expanding sectors, such as metal processing and computer manufacturing, heavily dependent on American consumer sales. A tariff of 20% could potentially drive them into recession, erasing the millions of jobs that have been established over the last 10 years.